Hello and welcome to The Nation. I'm Jessie CHAHAL. Today we have a compelling topic on the table, leading with character. In a world where leadership can often be defined by power and results, the question that arises is, what does it truly mean to lead with integrity and to be authentic? Today we're joined by an expert who embodies this principle, none other than ASOHAN SATKUNASINGHAM, a respected author, progressive HR practitioner. ASOHAN also brings a wealth of knowledge and experience as a high-impact corporate educator. And I'd like to explore today how character influences effective leadership, the challenges leaders face in maintaining their values, and actionable insights for anyone looking to lead with purpose and to be authentic. Welcome, ASOHAN. It's good to have you here. Facing all of us here right now is a book that you've authored. Indeed, it does address what you call as the CQ in approach to being a better leader. In summary, just to for us to kickstart on the right frame, you say that everyone is a leader.
Precisely. Thanks, Jessie. Good evening. Just to let you know that when we say everyone is a leader, the first thing we need to take stock is what is leading with character all about. In my way of looking, first and foremost, it's about leading yourself, in my situation. Why? Because we have come to a situation where we are always working on without and not within. We are worried about the environment, we are worried a lot of things, but we don't look at ourselves from within. So how do you work from yourself from within is when you look at cultivating your attitudes and behavior. Why? Because attitudes and behaviors are very important, because it creates a lasting impact, not only to yourself, but also to the environment that is surrounding you. So here is where the journey of continuous improvement comes, and leading with character is not just a journey by itself, it is a journey of a lifelong journey.
Okay. So A plus B equals C, that's the formula.
Right.
Attitude plus behavior equals character.
Correct.
If you could encapsulate that sentence and really tell us the walking formula of how that can be done, how do we go back to basics for A plus B equals C? The
basics actually lie, in fact, if you look at when I was talking about my pioneer book on this area on A plus B, it was a given book to the society, back to the schools actually. I've been a human resource practitioner about almost 33 years now, and when I was in the corporate days, I keep finding the issues of tardiness, lateness, and all this stuff. Right? You have this word ponteng sekolah and all this stuff, right? Now, this ponteng kerja and ponteng sekolah is the same, but in a different dimension. So it is rooted in the schools, where you see the symptoms in the industries and in the corporate world. And worse still today, I've seen schools even having, they have these LED screens outside, say, thank you for coming to school today. So we don't want to see that evolve one day. Thank you for coming to work today. Yeah, that will be a real terrible way of looking at how to change behaviors. That's right. Yeah. So from then till now, of course, there has been a landscape change. The approach has changed, the methods and styles have changed. But earlier you made a very interesting point that we need to start exploring to lead from within, not just without. What are some key aspects that individuals should really focus when they start or embark on this inward journey? The first thing is that I'm not very sure today's generation knows something that we call the diary, right? We had something, the diary, in the earlier generation. I still practice. A journal type of diary. Yeah, now it's journal. So what is the diary actually? Okay. Yeah. We have it right here on the screen. Yeah, precisely. The first one is discovery. Now we need to start asking ourselves in terms of what are our values? What are we made of? What really motivates us? The minute you know that discovery part, that part of it, then you will be able to uncover a lot of areas in terms of looking at your inner foremost things that drives you. What does immersion mean? What do I need to immerse myself in? Now, when you talk about immersion, is basically once you have clarity in your discovery, then you are able to get deep down into what you're doing, and you are able to start looking at it. I give an example, just say a leader. At that point of immersing into himself, knowing what he's doing, if he's out, they always say the pressure in a true leader is found at the point of when he's put into a very difficult or a very precarious situation. that is where the whole thing, either you fall.
Diamond in the rough, so
You're
to say.
right. So that is that part. So that is about your immersive self. So the minute you know about your immersive self, then you'll be able to take through about your leadership in a different dimension.
So we see DIA
Yeah.
R
Right.
equals Y. Does that then form you?
Yes, actually it all falls in you end of the day. You are looking at creating a unique version of you. Because we keep telling that leadership is about others. It's not about that. It's about you leading yourself first before you can lead others.
Do you feel that the understanding of the concept of being whether you are a head of a department or someone who is a bit more low level, if we're talking about within an organization setting, the concept and the understanding of leadership is mismatched, is wrong?
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that, because the fact that a lot of times when we talk about leadership, there is a lot of discontent in terms of creating the insights. We all know, as we are humans, we are embodied by a lot of personalities, a lot of traits, our values, beliefs, the kind of attitudes that we have. But the problem is when it comes to this matching of, I give you an example of the values that we have. In organization, what they do is that they try to match these values with the core values of the organization, thinking that if you have these core values, you are able to get the kind of values from each other in order on a shared values basis. But to do this, the only way is that you need to look at the insights of each and every one of your employees. And to create that insights, you will need something called as meaningful conversations. These conversations are not happening. I give an example even in performance reviews, right? When you look at performance reviews, it is always done on a ritual basis. It's either mid-year or year-end. That is the only time you have conversations and review with your people. But that is not enough. You are supposed to be having a lot of meaningful conversations in and out, and as close check-ins as possible, so that you will be able to know each and every of your employees or whoever is in your team well.
That's right. Now let's take a look at this sort of a 5D approach, if you will, or the 5Ds, in which you say is the wheel on which we can base how we can develop character.
Precisely. So the 5Ds we are looking at is in terms of dreams, discipline, determination, dedication, and devotion. So if you look at in terms of character development journey, what I have explained earlier, once you know your diary, once you are able to open your diary, you will be able to write your diary well, then you keep having a lot of auto-suggestions as you move on. You basically start suggesting a lot of things and you start ingraining those stuff. Then you start visualizing the kind of character or the kind of leadership that you're looking for. And then in there, you go on with the repeating this in the space that you have through a continuous set of improvements on your own self. Then you'll be able to start moving into the leading part. So in terms of the leading part is where I like to talk about the stick person by Dr. Truman.
Okay. And we see that stick person, if one can visualize, it actually has got a sort of larger head, and it goes down to that four-pointed looking circular thing. That's the stick man.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that the larger head means the leaders must have swollen headedness, right?
Definitely not.
So here is where we're talking about the intellectual self. Now, if you look in terms of organizational behavior studies, the intellectual part is what we have something called as IQ today, right? So that is where everything starts. Leadership sometimes is all about thought. And we all know that the thought that creates the biggest issues actually. In thoughts, conflicts arise. And in conflicts, there's always this issue of which is right and which is wrong. So for a leader, that part is very important. Next, we move to the next part, which is your feelings.
The EQ.
The EQ part, right? Now, the EQ part is what dwells into your way, how you behave. And for organizations, they talk about something called as expected behavior. Thinking that everyone behaves in that same manner, they're supposed to work on that. Then the third part is your spiritual self. That spiritual self that gives you choices, whether the right and wrong that you do. And putting all this together is the action, how you act on it. So if you look at the whole dimension, the EQ and IQ part can only be grounded and create a holistic way of looking at it if there is the third dimension which is the CQ, the character quotient. And how that is driven is through the 5Ds. You have dreams. So leaders with good dreams are visionaries. They have lucidity in whatever that they do.
We look at that chart and it seems that that needs to be instilled as young as possible. But these sort of frameworks only perhaps arise in one's life, perhaps maybe when they are midway or rather at a midlife point, 25, 30 years and above. How difficult is it to reframe or rewire, to circuit back to some of that you've shown us on the screen here?
So Jesse, here you are trying to suggest that whether you're early or late, it doesn't matter. Because whether you're an early bloomer or a late bloomer, the root word is still you bloom, right?
Yes.
So here is where we need to look at whether character can be early developed or later part of the development. If I'm going to tell you now that character can be only done in the early part of our development, then we're going to have many of them falling short of it. Now, the idea is that you can have it early, you can have it late. Now, if you have it early, is always the right thing to do because it's nurtured from schools actually at the early tender age.
So the earlier the better. So
Right.
We had another wheel here on the screen earlier. We're just going to bring that back up, in which I'd like to say that it does look like a matrix of some sort. How does this matrix then influence a character's effectiveness? You broke down the 5D earlier, and we see that now on the outer part of the wheel.
So if you look at this journey of creating this model, actually it took 3.5 years to study it, and what happened is that we managed to get this model valid and made it reliable, so that there's always this issue of how good is this model, right? So it has been tested and proven. Now how does this work is actually you start with your core, which is your attitude and behavior. So if you look at the construct on dream, discipline and determination, they cover on the 3 areas, which is attitude. It is only through your attitude that you'll be able to develop your dreams, discipline and determination. So if you look at in terms of discipline, just take that one construct area. One fine example of a country, an example is Japan. So many calamities, so many issues they have, they go each time they bounce back in a very fast way. So that is very important. But the most important construct among all these is the dream. Because that actually fuels everything. Even when you talk about leading with character, leading yourself, leading others, it's the dream that fuels whatever that you're going to do.
The inception.
Yeah. So here I give an example of how dreams actually really works. It's like Kotoka Mahua, if I'm not mistaken, is the mayor who was about 10 terms mayor in Japan in a place known as Fudai. Where we're talking about north of Tokyo. This is very interesting. He made a floodgate, which is and a sea wall, which is 51 foot high. So at that point of making that, the government at that point in time say, why you want to do something so lavish and crazy like this that is not doesn't serve its purpose. I mean, if you look at today's value, is about 30 million USD it was spent on that wall. But if you look at the tsunami that happened in that area, in Japan at that point in time, this is the only place Fudai, although they were in the mountainside, was not affected by the tsunami. Only a slight little wetness they felt. But that saved 3,000 people. So if you look at it, it took a leader with that kind of a conviction, with that kind of a character, to look at it in long term in developing and helping its people, and there were 3,000 over lives saved in that point in time.
And you sort of line this back to the dream of having that vision.
Right. So because he had things which is very visionary and very lucid, very clear. He had clarity in what he was doing, which many people could not see actually.
ASOHAN, why is this concept now important, especially in this time that we are in, versus the other sort of approaches that we have seen or rather read in books?
Yeah. If you look at it, I think why this time is because apart from we having catastrophic issues in our environment, I think we have a catastrophic issue internally today, morally, in terms of values, there's a high erosion taking place.
There's high expectations. There are internal turmoils, as you've mentioned.
Right.
There is, what is good, what is bad, what is the middle ground? How does one remain neutral? But also TMI, as they say, too much info. So a lot of things happening outwardly.
Right. And and you look at it, the other side of it, Jessie, the screen time in kids today, in youths today, right? They spend a lot of time on the screen rather than real interaction. So as we lose this interaction, although we are high tech, but we have a very low touch situation. This is something that we need to find a way how to improve the touch. Although we feel that we have a lot of connections and contacts, but the real truth in social media is it is all contacts, not connections.
ASOHAN, in your book, pun intended, who would you say are true examples of good leaders, leaders with character?
Okay, I have actually in this book cited 6 examples. I mean, we have many more. The first one that I took in terms of a corporate leader is Konosuke Matsushita. If you look at the brand of National Panasonic in the beginning days, he had a very profound vision of developing people before products. That fueled National to become a product of its stature. And I remember my parents were all sold out to National. Every product in the house is National, nothing else. And to mimic that, I followed through, buying Panasonic products and all. So you can see how powerful is that part of it, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I remember that brand in the 80s household as well. It was very much prominent then.
Yeah.
So having said that, what could you say that people could take as a takeaway from our conversation today so that they can start to lead and start their journey to lead with character? Of course, this book also works. It's a 2-part book. It has a workbook with it.
Correct.
And so you're meant to read the book first and then apply that through exercises in the workbook. That aside, how does one begin that journey to lead with character?
If you ask me, I think I like to reflect back a story. Many years ago when I was in the corporate days, I was in a company, in an organization. We went for lunch. A few of HR colleagues, we went off for lunch. Then we realized that I realized there was someone washing hands, in the basin in the restaurant. Then I was asking, who is this person? Then only we realized that it was an MD of a company. Then I asked this HR person, your MD? Yeah, he's my MD. And that gave me a real profound thing when I spoke to him after that. And I asked him, why do you wash your hands in the basin and clean the basin while washing? He told me one thing, I always like to leave something better for someone. Yeah. So here is where I want to call everyone after 3:30 today. Take this one thing and do it up. Very simple. Each time you use a restaurant, you go to the zinc, if you see it's dirty, just wash that zinc. Just start creating and start owning your own buzz. What is the buzz? The be better. All right, that's the first one. Second thing is add value in whatever that you're doing. And then the third one is you will shine by default.
Be better, add value, and shine by default. I think these are 3 sort of values or rules that we can very easily apply across the board, no matter your top tier or a student or a child. Anyone can apply this. I want to bring up this slide as well to quickly take a look at the matrix here. Walk us through this and on how this can actually really influence a leader's effectiveness.
Okay, if you look at the 5D dimension that I spoke about, now if you look at it, there is each one, it omits one. The first one, the dream, as is omitted. So what will happen if you have a leader who doesn't have a dream? Then you basically have situation of being very uninspired. So your people, you don't have a direction to lead to, you don't know where you're leading them. Now what about this, the second dimension, in terms of the D, the discipline, the next discipline? What about if that is omitted? If you don't have a leader without discipline, you'll be totally having a very chaotic situation where it's totally unsystemized.
Right.
Yeah, you have that kind of a situation. The third one, what about if you don't have determination? You will have a leader or you yourself become a quitter, right? Halfway through, there's no resilience in whatever that you do. You just quit and you just can't do anything much from there.
Very quickly, I just want to jump in here to say there is almost, to me, or my understanding, a fine line between being strict or being strong versus having a more softer approach. Perhaps here, it could perhaps be a difference in a female approach. How would you encapsulate or translate that when you say, one has a softer approach? It doesn't mean that they don't have a dream or they are not strong-willed. Yeah. It's perhaps just a different method of leading.
Yeah, you see, Jessie, we are not looking at leadership styles here, actually. Yeah, when we talk about leading with character, we are looking at the foremost of the person in terms of how they lead, between what they do and how they do it. That makes a lot of difference. So whether you are approaching it in a soft manner or a hard manner, it doesn't matter. Because what matters is how you're going to approach it in terms of having the distinguishing fact between knowing what you do and how you act in doing it. In the action, that makes a lot of difference today.
In this wheel that we've seen with the 5D approach as well, where have you, through your experience, found that there is the biggest missing gap here in the Malaysian corporate landscape, for example?
I think the biggest missing part is in the 5th D, which is devotion. Yeah, you see, today, we have very bad roads today, right? Last time, I remember, we hardly have potholes, if you look at it. Today, we have a lot of potholes, and worst thing, waste picks up potholes today. They say 500 meters away, there's a pothole.
Hazard.
So be careful. Reported. So I keep asking myself, where is the sense of devotion in whatever we do? There is this saying on a religious basis that tugas tu ibadah. Your work is supposed to be worship. So how many of us actually today take that part of it as a worship? Because we don't worship the work that we are doing, so much so we are looking at instantaneous way of getting things done. So the guy who's having business in
quick, fast and cheap.
Precisely. So just patch up and just gets things done without worrying about people's hazard, without worrying about the safety and health part of it, right? So this is what is missing, creating the sense of devotion. And this is also true, Jessie, just to let you know the study on employee engagement that we talk about, right? Today, why employees are very disengaged in an organization is because they have lost the sense of devotion in whatever they do.
Sense of devotion. Quickly, we'll bring up that slide again for you to have a quick look at the 5D wheel, as I call it, the 5D approach. Walk is starting point to have that dream, to have that vision, into discipline, to commit. And then, of course, working your way through all the way to devotion, which is, you say, a big part or big chunk that is missing. I also feel that one needs to then stick through and really walk the walk and talk the talk.
Precisely.
From beginning to end. Having said that as well, and we did go over this earlier about whether this can be employed or applied when you are towards a later stage in your life or even younger, but you say it is almost timeless in that sense. Cut costs, start earlier. Yeah. Can someone be considered successful if they achieve great results but they compromise on their character? So, for example, sales, you've got the numbers, you're hitting the targets, but you have a sour character that does not match your success.
Yeah, of course. You see, you can hit sales, right? What if you're doing it in an unethical way? Just say they say push money under the table and all this stuff, right? I mean, you can be a good sales guy. So the question is that, what is success all about today? I think this is where the biggest problem that we have today, because we are mentioning everything by success. I believe, sincerely, I think the greatest success is having the character that is required from you. I think that is what it is, because your self-worth. I think that principles and values you can't lose.
Well, it's been interesting speaking to you, and of course we've got these diagrams to visualize how we can apply these approaches to lead better in our days. Thank you, ASOHAN, for being in the studios. Of course, do go out and get this book. Look up ASOHAN online as well. Thank you for being with us. Of course, it's been enlightening to discuss a little bit more about being a better leader. Now, whether you're a seasoned leader or you're just starting out on your journey, perhaps an entrepreneur, remember that true leadership begins from within. And we hope you found today's insights valuable and that you are inspired to reflect on your own leadership style. Join us next time as we continue to explore important topics that shape our nation. Until then, stay curious and committed to leading with character. I'm Jessie Chahal. Thanks for being with me. Bye-bye. Thank you.